Hey guys, it's Kimberly from the Fat Quarter Shop, and we have Amanda Herring with her brand new Friendship Quilt Kit. It's going to be a quilt along. We've got all the supplies, including the quilt kit, at Fat Quarter Shop, so get that. And today she's going to be showing us how to make the Empathetic block. Today she's going to be showing the raw edge applique technique using aurifil thread, and the fabric collection is called Hello Lovely. So let's get started.
Let's talk about the supplies you're going to need to make this block. The first thing that you're going to need is a friendship template that's labeled Empathetic. And then you're going to need your fabric that you're going to sew with. You'll need two different kinds for your leaves, and you'll need a piece for your stem and a piece for your background. We're also going to use a quilter's basting spray. We're using a June Taylor brand right here. You're going to want a pair of scissors, you're going to want a tracing tool, and then I'm also going to show you just another way you can make your stem using a bias tape maker and a stiletto. We're going to need some thread too, and that's all we're going to need to get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is cut out our shapes. So using our template, we're going to just trace it on the back. I like to use a water erasable marker, but since this is on the back, you can always use a pencil or a light colored pen or a white pencil, whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm just going to trace one for right now, but you're going to want to trace 4 of each on your 2 different fabrics. Then we're just going to cut right on the line that we just traced. So it's not tricky at all, super simple. These edges, once it's all sewn down and washed, are going to be nice and lovely and soft, and they're going to fray a little bit. So if you aren't a perfect cutter, that's okay. So once you have done this and you have all of your shapes, you need 4 of one fabric, 4 of another fabric, and then you're going to want to just rotary cut a nice little 1/4 inch strip for the stem. Once you have all of those cut out, the next thing that we're going to do, I like to use a spray based, but you're going to want to be really careful if this is what you choose to use at home. Make sure you do it in a well ventilated area. Make sure you're really careful about the fumes because it can be really stinky. Also, be really careful about your overspray because I've glued my hands to things before using this. So maybe put a little surface down that doesn't matter so much because the overspray can be a little bit messy. So just going to give a tiny bit. You really don't need much. And then we're going to stick them down. And I'm just going to start with my stem. I should have started with that to begin with. Now the stem on this isn't quite centered. It's going to move a little bit more to the bottom. Before I put that on, I'm just going to mark my center to make sure that I get this right where I want it. And I'm just going to do a little bit of finger pressing. You don't need to take it to your iron. Now I know right where my center is. And my stem is going to be, if you look at the block that we've already done, my stem is going to be a little bit lower on the bottom than it is on the top. All right. And I like to be really careful when I'm sticking this down so that when I get to my machine, I'm not having to reposition things. Take your time and be a little bit fussy about how it looks. I'm going to set this one aside and move to this one next. When you're lining these little cute leaves up, there's a trick to making sure that you have enough room between the edge of your block and the edge of the leaf. And that is to make sure that you touch this leaf right here all the way up. Make sure you don't position it like this because you don't have enough space there. You lose your room. So you can see that we wouldn't have enough space there once it was quilted and sewn together. You might cut off the edges of your leaves. So make sure that that touches before it comes out. I'm just going to continue to glue baste all of these little leaves. If you're really brave, you can spray more than one at once. It's how you know. It's how you know you're brave. Make sure when you're putting on your sets, you want to make sure your bottoms are nice and lined up. And then you also want to make sure that you get your distance even between each set of leaves. Putting them on, and you're going to have just a little bit of stem left at the top. That's just the way it's designed, so make sure you leave yourself a little bit there too. All right, and now we are really ready to sew this down, but I'm going to show you really quick an alternate way that you could make your stem. So if you would rather have your stem be a little bit more finished, whether you're doing raw edge applique or another kind of applique, I'm just going to show you a fun little way to do that, and that is using a 1/4 inch bias tape maker. And what we're going to do is we've got the 1/4 inch bias tape maker, and we've got a 1/2 inch strip of fabric. And on the back of the bias tape maker there is a little slit, a little hole. What we're going to do is just insert the fabric in, and then using a seam ripper or a stiletto or a pin, if you're a MacGyvering kind of gal, we're just going to feed that through a little bit. And then some people like to iron it this way, some people like to iron it this way. Whatever way you feel most comfortable, we're just going to pull a little bit out, and then we're going to use our iron, and as we pull this out, we're just going to move the iron along the bias tape. This is so simple and so fun. Every time I do it, I swear I'm doing magic, because I have this really beautiful finished piece at the end of bias tape, which I could truly never make without a tool. And here is our beautiful piece of bias tape all ready to go. So if you wanted to do that instead of a raw edge seam on your stem, just a raw edge piece of fabric, this is another great option for you. So when you take this to your machine, what I like to do, I like to start not right on a corner, but I like to drop my needle in so I get it where I want it in my fabric. And then I'm going to drop my foot down. I'm just using a regular, same that you would use on quilting, a 2 stitch length. I like to keep it a little bit around 1/8 of an inch. Then drop your needle, turn your corner. And then just overlap your stitching a little bit here. If you go nice and slow, you can make sure to get it. And I like that better than back stitching. I feel like it's a cleaner look. So you're going to repeat that for all of your petals, and then just for your stem, oh, we lost a petal. For your stem, you're just going to go straight down the middle, but you are going to want to back stitch at either end. Now, your stem is going to fray on both sides, and it's going to leave it nice and soft. So if that's going to bother you, there's a couple of options. You can stitch on either side and just make a nice little rectangle, or you can go with the bias tape method that I showed you earlier. And if one of your petals falls off like that, that's okay. They're still sticky, just re-stick it to your fabric. Just go ahead and sew all of your leaves on until you've completed the whole block. Thank you so much for watching this video and learning the raw edge applique method for your friendship quilt. Make sure you check out the other friendship quilt along videos to learn some other applique techniques.